Yo, what's good, y'all? This is the GFC podcast. I'm Yahoo Khan. I want to just introduce yourselves more one by one like that.
So I'm Divine Ski, teaching breath work and meditation for about 6, 7 years. Really has changed my life and helped me embrace the Starseed journey more and ground it into this life. That's kind of my perspective and my point of view is I'm a breath worker and developing your body to those immortal levels.
Sure, bro, that spiritual immortality.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm Yahoo Khan. I'm a shaman. I'm an Akashic channeler. I'm an intuitive messenger, all these different types of things. And I'm really just here to help people advance themselves and, take control of their mind, of their spirit, and really connect to that, help them live on their highest self and within their highest timeline in this earth life, for sure.
My name is Professor X. I'm a metaphysical teacher and future doctor. I study holistic medicine, herbal healing, things of that nature. I've been teaching for some time now, and I'm happy to be here on the podcast with GFCC.
Yo, I'm Z, aka Zalia. I'm a somatic and wellness facilitator, and I'm a movement MC. And my goal here is to pretty much help people break away from visibility wounds and also just experience themselves on a different level. And overall, yeah, just help people align to their highest timeline.
I'm Sunny the Wolf King, Sun. I'm a spiritist, a medium, an intuitive. I'm an artist. I'm here to help people see their higher selves, and I'm here to clean the planet and to resolve issues that otherwise have been impossible to resolve in this life.
My name is Amrita. I'm an oracle, a seer, a channeler, and I'm just here to support others to be their best selves.
I'm Kenny, energy worker, grid worker, also help with emotional traumas, helping the land to raise its vibration as much as possible, and fellow Starseed of the GFCC.
My name's Arlen. I'm a astral and physical warrior, and I am aspiring to be a channeler, and I'm aspiring writer, and I'm still discovering more of my purpose on my journey.
Yeah, bro, I'm Atmosphere. I'm astral explorer, grid worker, and I'm here to help align the planet with cosmic energies and be a medium for spirit, for Earth and the cosmos, and be a mirror to remind you of your higher self, your soul awareness.
All right, bet. So what we want to hop into during this podcast is kind of discuss our different experiences with unlocking our DNA and the different spiritual intelligences and abilities that exist within those experiences. For me personally, a lot of times my DNA activations came from me sunbathing, through me cleansing my body and really tapping in with um the more primordial energies that exist within myself, as far as like self-healing, um entering deeper states of meditation and healing different brain cells and things like this to access more of my psychic ability. Um that was a process that I went through over the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years. I became vegan, since I really got into holistic healing. And those experiences helped me to unlock more of my, I would say, more ET DNA or other DNA like that. Just starting off from that one foundation, focusing on my human self. So any of you guys that want to kind of talk about your experiences with your spiritual DNA or your spiritual activations when it comes to those things, y'all can kind of get into that. I want to start off with Steve, since I am sitting here with him.
So I want to hop off of saying DNA is very essential and DNA has a pattern to it. And it's crazy how I got the download the other day about the Fibonacci sequence in our DNA.
Mhm.
And the Fibonacci is a mathematical endless pattern. And it's found in nature and everything like that. And it made me go a little bit more deep diving into the pattern of our DNA. And they say there's dormant DNA within us. Different things are suppressed and expressed as pairs. So it just started having me thinking just recently, going deeper into the DNA activations, there's things of creative abilities that can be expressed, and it's about consistency. What are you doing on a consistent basis? These things kind of be expressed and suppressed. So if I put myself in a creative environment, therefore the creative DNA will slowly and maturely start turning on. And it kind of got me back thinking like, so what am I doing in every moment? So I know so this is me personally. I just want to be basically equal on both sides. Like my right's not stronger than my left. My left foot is not stronger than my right foot. Everything's at balance. My heart and my mind are at coherence.
Sure.
So for me, that's like, I know me brushing my teeth with my left hand requires more. It's gonna take practice for me to develop that skill, and that's unlocking DNA because my left hand's not developed. So there's certain things of me not developed. So there's DNA that's like potentially dormant until you start working on it. Now I can write with my left hand and X, Y, and Z. So I say like you can integrate the DNA activations by just doing something small, but like it's out of your normal, and that boosts up your awareness. And I would say you express that DNA, that DNA pair.
Yeah, for sure. It's like you unlocking that aspect of yourself is allowing you to kind of make that energy physical and become that version of yourself that exists within that potential that you would call your DNA. Short. I
Yeah.
like the way you broke it down, bro.
No, that's a fact. From like, I guess a biology perspective, we are the accumulation of everything that has come before us. Whether it's like a animal, monkey, whatever, human. Whatever you believe the origins of humanity are, there's a lot of different theories out there. We are a product of that, right? So, we have a distant ancestor that expressed a certain gene or expressed a certain, physical state. We can tap back into that through reconditioning ourselves, right? This is like when it comes to gene expression is heavily affected by circumstances in our environment, like Ski said, and he alluded to. Um, if I want to express a certain gene or express a certain trait that I know is dormant within me, all I have to do is put myself in the situation or put myself in the environment where those genes will start to come out. Now, when it comes to expressing our dormant DNA and our dormant traits, as far as, psychic abilities and things of that nature, we have to put ourselves in the experiences and inside the environment where our psychic nature would want to come out, where it would want to flourish, right? That's why meditation and things of that nature are important, because they help you find a sound and coherent mental state, and they help you tap in with the interconnectedness of our minds, right? They do a bunch of research on this, how all of our minds are connected. There is a greater field of frequency that is being shared between all of our minds. And the more we are able to tap into that, the more we're able to tap into things like psychic abilities and things of that nature, right?
Right. And I heard how you mentioned how there are different theories on human evolution. I kind of want to get into some of those theories on this episode. So, do you want to kind of go into any information you have on that personally from that could apply to this context?
Repeat that one more time. You was cut out a little bit.
So, I heard you talk about how there are certain theories about human evolution that may prove one way of thinking or another way of thinking. So, I want you to
Yeah.
kind of dive into what you know when it comes to that, because I want to get into that on this episode.
For sure. There are a lot of theories. Some people think we came from monkeys. Some people think we came from animals, and some people think we came from ETs and divine entities. Some people think we came from the ground, and then a woman was made from a man's rib.
Yeah.
I think all of it has some truth to it. There's definitely a greater narrative, and each theory, each perspective has a piece to it, but when it comes to building that overall narrative, when it comes to putting the puzzle pieces together, we have to be very meticulous about what is and what isn't. And that's why I try to refrain from saying, oh, it is this or it is that. It happened this way. I more so try and unlock my own ability and my own self-knowledge about the way my own body is evolving right now, and be able to apply that to how things may have went in the past, right? So for a fact, like, I know that I've tapped in with higher spirits and ET entities, things of that nature, beyond this physical realm. So that lets me know that if not my physical body, my consciousness has been evolved from a ET or spiritual consciousness that is beyond this physical realm, right? When it comes
But
to our physical bodies, um, we have shown the capabilities to do things that other animals could not in a short amount of time too. You know, I'm a believer in evolution. A lot of spiritual people do not believe in evolution. You know, I'm a scientist at the end of the day, so I'm always go back to my scientific roots. There's ample evidence for evolution, ample evidence that we did come from primates and things of that nature. But there are missing links. Like they tell you that there's gaps in that theory. And I feel like that's where ETs or some type of higher entity, some spiritual force came into play, right? I do believe that humans have divine origins, especially from my own experience mostly. You know, I don't have archaeological evidence for that, but I know that I am a spiritual entity from multiple different spiritual
sure.
experiences. We can talk about that on here too. But you know, I have my own proof, so that lets me know that we have been seated here
Right.
in
I
one
hear this.
form or another by some sort of higher consciousness.
Yeah, for sure, bro. I'm glad that you kind of gave everyone that overview, and I would agree with a lot of points that you made when it came to that, as far as like there being different pieces of the puzzle. But I believe Ski wanted to kind of chime in on some of the stuff that you were speaking on.
And you were saying you were a scientist. That's like, being a scientist is studying nature, you're
Hmm.
studying the foundations of this cosmos. So how
Yeah,
more spiritual can it get? You're looking at the smallest thing and like, how does this work? You know?
exactly.
But exactly, and it's those minute studies, those that attention to details, what we're really looking for on how we're going to fully create kind of a new image on what science and spirituality and physicality and all these different things truly mean when they're intertwined
They're
together the
connected,
way that
yeah.
they need that they
Exactly.
the way that they need to be. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that you guys both kind of gave those two perspectives, because they ended up intertwining in a way that we didn't really expect them to.
Yeah, and that's something that I really want to like. That's one of my life missions is to show people that science, spirituality, even some certain parts of religion. You know, all these things are not different. They're not separate things. They're just different perspectives of the same thing. When we're talking about science, we're talking about the study of reality as we know it. It's heavily based in, you know, mathematical and uh I guess logical thought, you know, and then you have the spiritual aspect, which is more so based in intuition, but it's still the study of, you know, reality as we know it, right?
Facts.
um you know, I do plan to help bridge the gap between all of those things, because once we do bridge the gap between science, spirituality, and formulate that into religions or some sort of structured belief system that we can teach and it actually be fruitful and not spiral into, you know, dogma and war and things of that nature. You know, once we can do that, we can form a better human race, like one that is actually coherent on all levels, not just, you know, spiritually savvy or not just physically savvy. And that's what when we talk about, you know, you wanted to talk about the true origins of humanity, you know, when it comes to certain theorized lost civilizations and certain groups of humanity who maybe got wiped off the map, you know, we don't know. If there was, which I do believe there has been,
There's proof.
um
There's a lot of proof
I'm
when it
saying it's
comes
a
to
lot
that
of proof,
stuff.
but you know, certain downfalls of those cultures and those people point towards, you know, an imbalance of spiritual thinking or imbalance of logical thinking, you know, focusing too much on science or focusing too much on spirituality. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now in today's world. You know, our world is heavily scientific. It's overly scientific, and it's fair because it's kind of a overcorrection from what it used to be. We used to be heavily spiritual and dogmatic, you know, not necessarily good spiritual though, you know, not intuitive spiritual, more so dogmatic spiritual. And we're getting into this more scientific, you know, Aquarian energy. But if we don't balance that out with the spiritual nature, we will fail to realize, you know, we'll fail to assign true value to what we know. You know, it's one thing to know something, and then it's another thing to know why what you know is important. You know, and that's where I feel like spirituality fills the gap within scientific knowledge.
And that's one I wanted to add to that, well, more like a question of viewing. I want to know what everyone thinks, but viewing spirituality as a science, and
Hmm.
how is that even considered a science? Or, I have different thoughts on it because I see different points of view, but Yeah, I'm curious to know, like, especially you, Professor X, how you would see it or how you feel about that.
Think that the human definition of science is lacking. So we couldn't technically define spirituality as science, but what the true definition of science should be, spirituality would be included in that. You know, spiritual science from a human perspective is what is measurable. You know, what is known. You know, and that's the real gap between scientific thought and what lies beyond. That's the one thing that's really stifling us as a people, is the fact that we stay so true to what is known, and we kind of push away everything that is not known, which is stupid because the whole point of science is to reach beyond what we currently know. You know, if you go to somebody on the street, right, who knows basic science, you know, the basic shit a person needs to know to survive on Earth. You know, if you went to them and told them, oh, you know, a non-physical reality exists beyond this physical realm, they would tell you, unless they're religious, they would tell you, oh, you know, you're dumb, blah blah blah. Or if they were religious, then they would tell you, yeah, there is, but then they would try and put all these rules and regulations around it, like, oh, it is this, it isn't that, you know, which is it's crazy, it's ludicrous, because you know there's not enough science in that type of mentality. But going back to how science is lacking, it's like, if you go to the tip top of scientific thought, you know, I'm talking about the people who are lead researchers, the people at CERN. You know, CERN gets a bad rep. We could talk about that later too. But you know, the lead researchers in their field. Think of the Albert Einstein, the Nikola Teslas. These people were the tip top in scientific thought, and the number one thing that made them the tip top in what they do is the fact that they were not bound by what is currently known. The whole point of this science shit is to reach beyond what we currently know. So you know, that's one thing that modern science is really missing. That's why we haven't had another Albert Einstein. That's why we haven't had another Nikola
I feel
Tesla,
like
because
they're
everybody's so
around.
focused on,
I feel like
yeah,
they're
they are
around.
around. They are around, but it's like we're in this digital age where you got to break through the noise, you know, and then the government is killing people too. They just killed off a bunch of
Yep.
scientists.
Did anybody hear about David Wilcock?
Yeah, he just
Yeah,
Yeah.
the dude who
Yeah,
yeah,
I saw that
I forgot
unfortunately.
too.
what I forgot what he created, but they just killed him too. Like,
Yeah, they just killed a girl who was working on anti-gravity. And this is shit, like, I be thinking
Wow.
about this shit because, like, with my limited knowledge of science and physics, I know anti-gravity is possible. Shit is not, it's not
He got
some like
oh,
crazy hard
Yeah.
things to invent. People have done this before, but you know, it's like the capitalism. Capitalism is
Yeah, it's the
fucking everything
power.
up, you know,
Power.
exactly. And truthfully, I don't think that our modern view of science is that far off. I think that's why we're here, truthfully, to bridge the gap between science and spirituality, because science is not too far gone. Normies think that science is too far gone. They think scientists have lost their minds, but truthfully, it's the government bodies and regulating bodies
yeah,
that govern what we can and can't say, what we can and can't
Yeah.
teach, what we can and can't know, you know.
like,
Um,
bro,
you know,
because
they
they even confirm. Yeah, they even confirm certain theories that we like people like us might have that study mostly metaphysics. They confirm it years after it's already been kind of proven on a
mhm,
more like word to mouth level. They'll be like,
yeah.
oh yeah, we kind of knew that like 5, 6 years ago. We just couldn't really tell y'all.
Exactly, especially when it comes to quantum physics. You know, that seems to be the buzzword right now. And I truly am one of those people. I don't think many people truly understand quantum physics. They say, oh, this is not as possible spiritually because of quantum physics. And it's like, yeah, it's truth to it, but it's not all the way true. But I want to focus on the truth to it, because right now where we are at scientifically, quantum physics is the door to proving a lot of spiritual truths. You know, quantum
Hmm.
physics is already, people are already theorizing. The tip top people in quantum physics are already theorizing. There are multiple timelines, if not multiple realities, which we spiritually already know. You know, they're saying that energy comes from a quantum field where they don't know where the energy within that quantum field comes from. They just know that it's there. You know, and this is kind of similar to our concept of the void or source, you know, something that is infinite, all encompassing, but nothing at the same time. It's not definable. It's always it's mutable, it's
Right.
changing, you know, but
Right.
it can manifest as concrete manifestations. You know, this is our concept of God, you know, but we only call it God because we are not that intelligent as a species, to be honest. I feel like if we truly knew, I feel like beings that truly know about source and know the scientific level of these spiritual concepts that we talk about wouldn't even call it God. You know what I'm saying? But you know, we're
But
kind of
I
in that
kind of
religious
agree with
dogma
that.
era.
I kind of agree with that in the sense of the way that it's like mystified. People act like it's not quantified. Like you cannot quantify your relationship
Hmm.
or the effects the divine has on the physical world.
Hmm.
But it's actually very quantifiable, and it just gets lost in translation because of different new age concepts where
Hmm.
people don't really fully dive into their practices to the point where they fully build that relationship. They just kind of like get the concept to the point where they start to form that belief, but they don't really fully ground inside that understanding and live from the energy.
Yeah, that's a fact. Um, yeah, someone else speak. I'm gonna meditate on that one.
Yeah, for sure. So I know we were kind of going into y'all's different experiences with DNA activations or spiritual DNA. So I kind of want to continue that with
Hmm.
whoever goes next because that's kind of how we got into that whole discussion.
I have some like angelic DNA activations, and it's like you you think you understand like those divine intelligences when you really don't, and it's something that's like kind of experience based with most of this stuff. It's like you can show someone the blueprint, but it's very experience based. You have to walk down the path to have your own experience. And
But
going through these angelic DNA activation, it feels like um it's like it's like showing you at the lowest where the warrior is at and what the warrior is doing at the lowest, and also ascending to the highest with some of the Metatrons, and just feeling that energy and just feeling that cosmic intelligence, bro. It's like it's very so real, and it's like you're almost standing between the world at all times. And Cass talks about this a lot, and just talking about just like being in the half in the physical, half in the spiritual. And like I'm really coming to like a full coherence with this. Like it really feels like I'm standing between the worlds at all times. And that might look like I might be hearing conversations because my psychic abilities are more tuned, but that means I have to ground more because I can sense other people's energies a little bit. I'm more sensitive now because the things I've been doing on the angelic initiations. So, well, initiations meaning like just doing different things, just keeping my body healthy, using different herbs and stuff that have those angelic principles, and
Especially that.
yeah, and just carrying that angelic energy yourself and having standards for yourself. And it all comes to full coherence, but it's like you're walking between the worlds, and you can sense when others are walking between the worlds with you, like Yahoo. Like I can feel it. It's something that you feel, but it's like you can walk between the worlds and things start to flow easier now. I'm seeing it now. Like it's
hmm.
things are speeding up in my life, at least like very fast as I'm walking deeper in between the worlds. But some of the stuff doesn't make sense at times, but I have to let it like just go through it, experience it, and then it comes to full coherence. Like, oh man, I needed to. Oh, why did I think about the Fibonacci sequence? Why did that pop up? And then bam, now I see why it popped up. Like
Hmm.
I forgot that I didn't know specifically what we were talking about on the podcast, and I knew we were gonna have the podcast, but I didn't know what exactly we were talking about. And a couple nights before that, it just all comes with full coherence. I literally had a complete download. I think I still have the web search on my phone, the Safari tab on my phone of like me searching up Fibonacci sequence and the DNA pattern, and just numbers is just again mathematical sequence in literal spirituality, bro. So which are DNA, like it's a physical thing that's very spiritual, just like everything else. So it's like you are the spiritual experience at some point, like walking between the worlds. Like you create a spiritual experience with everything you do.
Like
That's a fact. Piggybacking on that, um, you know, I want to make the distinction between DNA and spiritual DNA because those are like they're very similar, but they're different at the same time. Like we have physical bodies that have DNA, and then we have spirits. We are souls in a physical vessel. The soul has its own DNA. You know, the soul is physical on its own level, but it's non-physical to our physical bodies. Um, that being said, it's like our soul can be a compilation of many different spiritual energies and, you know, different maybe ET races and things like that. Um, that can bleed into our physicality, right? And that's what awakening to your higher nature and activating DNA is really about. Like, tuning your physical body to match the frequency of your spiritual body, your spiritual DNA. You know, and a big part of DNA is karma. You know, like Ski said, he was talking a lot about alignment and how things just flow, you know, and that's what happens when you tap in with your DNA, you awaken that spiritual DNA, you start to tap in with certain karmic energies that are basically a laid out path for you. You know, it's like shit just becomes easier, shit becomes more aligned when you tap in with certain DNA. You feel me?
I wanted to add to that too, the spiritual DNA, because from my experience, my physical DNA, my family, I was born into, I'm Italian. Majority of my physical bloodline is Italian. And I do have DNA from different parts of the world, physical
Mhm.
DNA. So I do have ancestors from different cultures, right? But spiritually, I have like a lot of African uh, ancestors and spiritual DNA that that is the most prominent part of my spirituality, because that's what is within my soul. So it's not where like I went and looked for it and I'm like, okay, let me just like take from this culture. It was more like it came to me. These spirits came to me, and when I started opening up more, they kept like being persistent, like, hey, we're calling you, we're calling you, we're calling you, we're calling you. And I answer the call. And then speed up to now, like my life is turned around so much better. And that's because I tapped into my true spiritual DNA and what my spirit and my soul is aligned with. Because that comes from past lives too. So my past lives, I have ancestors from past lives who are my ancestors now. So I connect with them at my altar. And that also includes ETs, even ETs that from anywhere, really. Past lives, there's ETs. I'm like, I still don't even know what they are, but they're my family and they're divine. So, but it goes super deep. It goes so deep. It's you just gotta, our guides. We have so many different types of guides. A lot of our guides are our ancestors as well, and ancestors from past lifetimes. I have a Taino ancestor. I do have um, I do have that in my DNA in this lifetime, in my physical lifetime. But this ancestor, he told me he's like I was his child, but my past life. But sometimes it confuses me, and I'm like, wait, hold on, was it in this bloodline or that bloodline? Either way, it doesn't matter because it's in my spiritual bloodline, and it's connected to me in so many ways.
I want to
That's a
talk
fact.
about
Oh,
how
my bad.
a part of tapping into your or awakening DNA strands comes from us healing trauma. For me personally, when I started to awaken to multiple lifetimes and when that started to come to the forefront, it started because I began to heal from certain aspects of myself in this incarnation. And that started with inner child healing. When I started to heal those different aspects of myself in the trauma from this lifetime, it awakened all of different lifetimes that I've experienced, that I've been experiencing. And I noticed that even when I dance, I receive certain information, downloads, visions, whatever clair that is my strongest, I'll start to receive it through those. And even through dreams, I've gotten so many different visions and different lifetimes I've experienced, but it all started from me simply healing trauma. And I feel like that is a huge part for all of us. And for anybody that wants to tap into their DNA and awakening certain DNA strands, it starts with you healing. And that, yeah.
That's a fact, especially since a lot of our a lot of our a lot of our DNA, and especially when it comes to past life memories, which is a part of our spiritual DNA, even the physical memories, because our memories are stored in DNA.
Hmm.
When you start to awaken to certain aspects of yourself, certain traits, it comes with certain memories, and it's a bodily intelligence. So we talk about this a lot in
Mhm.
epigenetics and how um, your environment triggers something within your DNA. The actual code for a certain trait doesn't even have to be in your DNA for your environment to shape you to express a certain trait. For example, like when it comes to African Americans in the United States, we respond to police sirens differently than
Hmm.
other races because it's epigenetic. And on an epigenetic level, that sound has been embedded in our consciousness, embedded into our DNA. And even though the actual code isn't necessarily in there, it probably is by now. But when they did the tests on these, they didn't find evidence of there being code in our genetics that you know sirens are bad. But we still express the fear nonetheless from those sirens. And they did this test on mice too. Like I don't remember the exact study, but it was something along the lines of a rat or a mouse. They got shocked every time they did something, and then they didn't get shocked every time they did something else. And even though they only did the shocking on the first generation, the next generations still stayed away from the thing that would get them shocked.
Okay. I know.
I don't
Mhm.
know if y'all have heard about that, but
Yeah.
you know, that's epigenetics. And if there was some sort of knowledge that was embedded in the first generation of mice DNA that the second generation of mice needed to tap into, they would have to get over that fear of being shocked. It's like the people who came before you, what limited them is going to try and limit you as well.
Hmm.
But
We're born with, so whenever we're always born with inheriting everything, like the trauma from our ancestors. And that's why it's so important to venerate your ancestors and your bloodline, so you can heal that and lift that trauma off of them. And even for future generations, like being that curse breaker, you're looking out for the ancestors and you're looking out for the ones who come after you. And you're clearing all of that. Because we take on so much of it. And and from my experience, as I've venerated my ancestors and healed them, I've lifted them so much that even as healing them, they were also healing me. So when that spiritual DNA was being cured, my spiritual and my physical DNA was also being cured and helped and tended to so much. And it happens both in real time, like in physical time at the same time. So it's like it mirrors. It's very important to do that because it's like, or else you're just gonna keep, the cycle's just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
it's a fact. And I like you put it that way in the sense of generational curses because a lot of people kind of just say that and they don't really know exactly what that means. But it's exactly what it sounds like. It's like it's a karmic cycle that is cursed your bloodline or all the people that have come before you and are going to come after you if you don't break it in a certain way. And it basically it's manifest in a lower timeline and it's on you to break that. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of um self direction to completely shift the trajectory of where your bloodline was already going because that's what breaking generational curses is completely shifting the trajectory of you and everyone that comes after you. And I believe this
Mhm.
key wanted to say something about this also.
Hmm.
That like for me, I kind of see the understanding of it does get passed down, but is it through our family or is it through ourselves? Through our own actions, through those timelines, and we had said family in a resonance that was able to produce and help us produce that certain outcome for those karmas to be played out a little easier. And I feel like we all get like this certain amount of celestial chi that we came to earth with.
But
And
I like you put it that way.
and
Yeah.
it's like this chi that it you can build it up, but it actually takes practice building it up. Unlike the bodily chi, which comes from eating, exercising, and doing stuff like that, this post-celestial chi, which is healing your DNA and helping you experience your psychic abilities and things like that, it takes a little longer to be fed. And those karmic sediments is things that are inhibiting that flow of that celestial chi. Like we all getting that celestial chi, but like again, if you only need a little raindrop worth, that's the only thing you're gonna get until you break through those karmic sediments, which is those things that we express through the. I mean, I'm kind of using the Taoist kind of philosophy.
Break it down.
With it.
It's a good way to say it.
And those karmic sediments, which would be hindering us in forms of pain, body blockages, these are all, for me, it's all connected. Like everything is all in coherence and connected. And if one part's imbalanced, then the whole system has a little tweak in it that could be repaired.
Exactly.
So even if your pinky toe, just for example, you don't got a very strong pinky toe, that means your whole system could be stronger if your pinky toe was at full balance.
And that's really how it works. Is if there's one cog off inside of your system, because the body is a temple, the body works like it's almost like a structure that needs to be constantly taken care of. If your temple starts to break down at the foundation or break down in a certain pillar, your foundation is going to crumble. Your temple is going to crumble, right? So you want to make sure that it's taken care of in the most cohesive way and really channeling the most divine and highest eternal energies that you can, which is kind of that primordial or celestial chi that you were speaking about, bro. So I like the way that you broke that down.
Yeah, and I also like the way Sonny broke it down, because that helped me like get this stream of thought.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like going deeper into the post celestial chi is something that literally, like, you actually have to put effort into replenishing. And it deals with our physical body and everything like that, but it's celestial. It's definitely out of this world, and it can take the memory from this world with it. It has more than enough energy to do so. It has more than energy to put in different bodies if it wanted to, of you. But like, how much celestial chi do you have? And that's something that everyone kind of fluctuates with everyone due to your life circumstances and due to how much you want to pull on it and not expand on it. And some people, like I've even heard some masters saying that they will use this lifetime just to develop celestial chi for the next lifetime. I'm like, dang, I want to do this lifetime.
Yeah.
And there's masters that teaching it this lifetime. So it's pretty cool. But I feel like going deeper into those concepts, like, open up a doorway, to like further DNA exploration
and your full potential, and really expanding on what it is that you're capable of fully doing, because you're channeling from the most eternal aspect of yourself, and allowing that to actually transfer over to you physically, which is really the point of a lot of the spiritual practices that we do, is to create this energy physically in your physical body and your physical life, because that is why we're here, is to, as spiritual beings, having a physical experience.
I agree.
Yeah,
And
I was just Z. I know you had something to say, and I know that you had a certain point that you were kind of getting to. I wanted you to like expound upon that.
so just to add on to what you were saying, that's why whenever we are receiving certain memories, visions, dreams about different lifetimes that we've experienced, it's not just by coincidence. And oftentimes we're receiving that so we can integrate that into our personal lives, and we can show up better as that energy, as that frequency. And when a lot of people can have like a challenge when it comes to integrating that, because they either overthink it or they don't have like a vision of how they can embody that energy. But for me personally, for an example, during the time when I was healing my inner child, I was tapping into a lot of lifetimes that I had on Lyra, and I was receiving information about that. And even in the physical, a lot of stuff was coming up about Black Panthers, and the Wakanda movies were coming out. And I'm just taking note of all of these different confirmations in the physical, and how does this pertain to me? And once again, a lot of that energy comes back to me finding that courage within myself to overcome certain fears, insecurities, everything pertaining to shadow aspects of ourselves, and how can I use that energy to help me overcome battles that I may be dealing with in the physical in my personal life at that time. And even when I was receiving that, I was healing a lot of conflicts that I had with my parents and coming into a deeper awareness of like, okay, why is it that they think this way? Like just understanding them on an empathic level, and how can, I shift my perspective on how I view things. And that's how we're supposed to be using these memories. Like you're not just receiving it just to receive it and be in like a spiritual ego and be like, oh yeah, I was this kind of person and pumping up your chest and doing this and that and the third. Like, no, you're receiving that so you can learn how to integrate that with whatever you're experiencing now. And that's something that I feel like is very important, especially when we get into spiritual community, because a lot of them have this narrative that, I am God and we are God, but they have it, they come off very egotistical, and they tend to not really understand completely what it truly means, and they
Yeah.
don't really show up as that. They don't show up as these different things that they know. They're not showing up, and it's not embodied. And yeah,
I'm glad you said
That's a
that
fact.
because that's a very
Yeah.
important point to make, especially like dealing with the cosmic information and understanding your past lives and everything like that. When you start to come across those type of experiences and you don't properly integrate those physically, you become like blocked and almost stuck in those karmic cycles or those karmic timelines. Just like how we were speaking about earlier. But it's like you're stuck on a past version of yourself that you used to be. So you're fated to be that same version of yourself and kind of end in the same way, or be stuck in that energy and not apply that now, so that you don't even fulfill your purpose here within the first place. And that's where a lot of the community gets kind of misconstrued at, is because yes, we have the potential to be gods, yes, we have infinite potential, yes, we had all these different roles in past lives, but the reason that's so important is because it's to let you know what you're actually capable of, not what you're bound to. You see what I'm saying? So I'm very glad
Thanks.
that you said that, and I'm very glad that kind of made that point, because that's very, very important for people to understand, is that these are not things you are bound to. These are traits that you have. These are lives that you pull from to create an amalgamation of that now in the present.
That's a fact.
And that's
I'm
how
glad
Anyone that
that
we
you.
haven't heard from, I would like to hear from some of y'all on this topic also. On any of y'all experiences with DNA activations or like activating certain spiritual DNA, because I feel like a
Actually,
lot of
I wanted to expand on that.
yeah, go ahead, Kenny.
Even if we do unlock those God codes, do become gods ourselves, even the gods aren't that egotistical, because even gods know that we are not limited to just that single godhood. We are all one. We are all originally one, connected with a single source. We
Like,
originally all come from a single source of divinity, to the point that all of the whole cosmic web is intertwined on a molecular level, that all of our molecules will eventually all go back to that source.
that's a fact. And I'm glad you said that, because different God beings and different beings who have kind of carried their divine nature with them on every journey that they've taken, or as many journeys as they've taken as they can, they have no ego and understand that all the power comes from oneness. And the fact that they are so aligned with oneness is what makes them so powerful. So there is no room for ego at all, because in order to have that level of power and that level of authority within reality or within creation, you have to understand how tapped into oneness you are, and start to embody that on the different higher planes of existence.
That's a fact. And jumping back on what Z said, that's why it's dangerous to unlock, your DNA and past life memories, things like that. Like that's why it's not easy. That's why there are actual spiritual beings who, they'll prevent you, they'll stop you from, you know, unlocking these things about yourself. There are gatekeepers because, you know, piggybacking on what Yahoo said, it's like when you wake up, a lot of times you're so ready to throw out your own identity to match back to this that you used to be. Oh, like, when I was coming up spiritually, it was like Egypt was a big talk of the town. It still is, but I feel like during 2020, 2022, like everybody was wanted to say that they was a pharaoh and Kemet, and it was a lot of like new spiritual people like, oh yeah, I was, King Tut, I was Akhenaten. And then other people come out the woodworks like, no, I was King Tut, I was Akhenaten. You know what I'm saying? People be beefing over who was who and shit, and it's like that's stupid as fuck for a
It
whole
is.
other, like, because you could have been the same nigga in different timelines, but that's a whole other conversation.
That's facts.
And I feel like that's
It's like,
also
Like, go ahead, Amrita, go ahead.
how people like go into spiritual psychosis.
Facts.
that's a fact, and it's like you can't be so willing to match back to something that you used to be or could have been, because the whole point is to become. Like, you're always becoming the next thing, and it's not to say that
Right.
you aren't enough right now or that you aren't what you need to be right now. It's just saying that you need to be focused on the present where you are now. Like, the past shit is just a lesson. It's not, it's not a costume that we could just put back on anytime we need it. Uh it's more of like a movie that we can watch and learn lessons from, in keeping our own costume on right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm
Yeah.
Professor X in this lifetime. In another lifetime, I could have been King Tut. I'm not finna try and embody King Tut right now, though. It's certain aspects of King Tut I could embody, hypothetically, but it's like, I'm not gonna, go get the black eyeliner and do my eyes like Egyptians and, start
Yeah.
wearing, Egyptian clothing. It's like, we all have our own personal swag, our own personal energy in this lifetime that we need to express. You feel me? Because we didn't. If I wanted to be King Tut again, I would just go live King Tut's life. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like, I wouldn't. I came here as Professor X. You know what I'm saying?
You the king.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
There's no need to.
that's something that people don't realize too. Like, you live. Sometimes you live the same life over and over again. Dead ass, over and over again.
And it's because you're so attached to a past one, like I said.
Exactly.
And another thing too, like what I had a thought from what Z was saying, like, you know, that's why certain gifts that we've had, like when we inherit gifts either from like ancestors or from our past lives, like gifts that we're harnessing and calling back, that's why we don't always tap into those gifts right away. That's why they stay in dormancy for so long.
Yeah.
And those gifts, they'll come out right when exactly when we're it's meant to come out, because if they come out sooner, then boom, the ego thing and all that stuff and
Yeah.
get all crazy, and
Exactly.
it's just overwhelming, and people don't know how to work their gifts. They'll just like will make people just use it for self-serving purposes or as a party trick, like, look at me.
Exactly.
And it's like, nope, you're not supposed to be utilizing those gifts for that. You're supposed to actually do something divine with it. You're supposed to fulfill your mission with it. This is here to support your mission and your life purpose. It's not
And you're
for
only going to be given access to such power if it's known you're going to use it for a benevolent reason, or you're only going to be able to get to a certain level. Like, it's certain people who are malevolent that can astral project, that can read your mind, that can remote view, whatever it is, but they'll never be able to access a certain level of power because they're taking it from an egotistical standpoint, and they've only unlocked it for, like you said, self-serving reasons, or as like a party trick to make people think like, oh, I'm cool, I could do this, but those things are really given to us in order to follow our spirit with them.
Yep.
Like, the reason a lot of us are so clear cognizant or so clairvoyant, we can see things, we can hear things, we get downloads, we know things out of nowhere, is so we can use those powers to help assist the planet with the ascension and also help other people on a personal level in certain ways that they might not understand, but they still benefit from.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And that's something that I'm like really big on too, when it comes to like the clear senses and different psychic abilities. Like, I I am clairaudient, I hear things a lot. And if that would have woke up when I was like 17, 18, I would be in a psych ward right now because I would have thought I was schizophrenic. I would have thought I had problems, you know? But as it matured, it started very small. I would hear one voice, then over time I would start to built that muscle. And now it's like I could communicate with spiritual entities, have whole long conversations, and there's context, there's depth, and then there's active recall. We talk about shit that we talked about a long time ago. We talk about the future. They've told me shit that's gonna happen, and then it happens. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if that would have woke up for me when I was young, I would have went off the deep end. And that's why it's so important to like really keep it in the tuck. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't go out here
Yeah.
promoting like, oh, I'm a telepath. I'm the world's greatest. This like it's like I don't even tell people I'm clairaudient for real. I tell y'all because I work with y'all, but it's like when I do readings with people, I don't tell them, oh yeah, I've awakened all my clairs and blah blah blah, because that's not important. Like that's just for me to know, for me to help you. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not for me to just be out here telling everybody, um, you know, and it's like that's what I feel like the ego comes in. It's like when you associate your ego with the fact that you can do these things or the fact that you want to do these things, you get imbalanced. You feel me? Like, and that's why, especially Genie Dot, he's not in here right now, but he talks about that on his YouTube and on his Patreon about how people who want to unlock these abilities, they struggle to, especially piggybacking on what Yahoo said about how you can only get to a certain level, even if you do wake it up. It's like you're going to get stuck after a minute because your entire identity is the fact that you can astral project, not the fact that you use astral projection to do anything like worth a substance.
Exactly.
Not
Yep.
for the love of it.
You can tap
Mhm.
into anything, but if it's not from the eternal energy of your spirit, it's gonna get capped at a certain point in time. Because it's like even you could look at the ego and say it has a certain amount of power or identity or some amount of whatever it has, but it like I said, it can only get to a certain level and you can only use it for so many things. And the reason we're even trying to see ourselves as eternal in the first place is because we're connected to the spirit, which is that actual eternal aspect of us. This soul is eternal in the sense of it will never die. But I still live in this physical body, and there's certain amounts of power I can't access unless I have that divine connection. I'm still in the physical, whether I leave my body or not. I'm going to come back to this body.
Yeah, that's a
Humility
fact.
goes such a long way. Humility and heart-based spirituality.
Mhm.
Those are the keys right there.
I definitely want to add that we should definitely be mindful when it comes to trying to fill voids when we awaken to certain information. Because a lot of people be seeking validation because they have not used that information to work on their insecurities, their
Yeah.
fears. They trying to use this information to fill things, and it's not being graded properly. That's why I was like, when you're not just getting this stuff by coincidence. Like you're receiving this stuff for a purpose, not so you can go and tell people I'm such and such. And another thing about like people going on this narrative, oh, I'm this person, no, I'm that person. A good thing that I like that Kenny said was that oneness aspect, and people are forgetting that we all have the ability to tap into personifications of consciousness. So
Exactly.
the consciousness that King Tut was embodying, we all have the ability to tap into that. You feel
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
like trying to say that you this person and you that person. Like I get if there are certain timelines where there is a physical person that is embodying that, but regardless, consciousness is consciousness at the end of the day, which we all can tap into at our will. So it doesn't matter who is who. You feel me? It's just about what you choose to embody in this lifetime, how you want to show up in this lifetime and within your purpose. And that's what matters. And trying to fill information with voids is not the way. That's not how you properly integrate that information. And y'all need to be mindful of that aspect because I do see that a lot, especially in the spiritual community.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up too, because a lot of people kind of perceive like whatever they try to fill that with, like as long as it aligns with a certain aspect of their belief system, they look at it as something that is okay for them to do, but it's really holding them back in a certain way. Um, and that really could be anything, like whatever you're trying to fill a void with. If there's a void inside of you, it needs to be filled with love and that self compassion before you fill it with anything else. So
Yep.
thank you for making that.
Yeah.
Heart-based. Heart-based is the way to go.
Easier to develop psychic abilities in a heart, like you were saying, Sonny, humble and heartfelt way. It's so much easier to develop psychic abilities because at some point with a divine source energy, the source knows like, okay, you're using it for good. And you can still get it if you're not using it for good, but your abilities will not be as strong as a
Yep.
person that's using it for good,
And
and
that's a fact.
they don't mind being abundant in the love.
Exactly. And it's like that's something
And I
that
kind of hold it.
people don't really peep game on that too. Like especially in the spiritual community, we have this like structure mentality. And like I'm one for that too. I'm super structured about everything that I do. But you know, they try and put rules and regulations around shit like, oh, you need to meditate every day if you want to grow your spiritual abilities. You need to do this, you need to do that. And that's truth to it. Those things can help you advance spiritually, but those things don't make you spiritual. You know, and me and my personal experience, I would like my first spiritual awakening that I had. I meditated like every day for a year after that. The whole next year, I didn't even meditate at all. But my spiritual ability still got exponentially stronger just because I was handling shit in my real life and breaking through trauma in my real life, overcoming my personal, you know, setbacks and personal fears, things that were actually holding back my abilities from coming through. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, meditation and things like that I advocate for, but that's like trying to force shit. You know what I'm saying? Like people who are malevolent, they meditate too. They sit there all day trying to, you know, astral project and get out their body to go curse a neighborhood or some shit, you know? But you when you're truly tapped in on some love shit, you don't need to do any of that shit. You just need to exist for real. You'll be tapped in. The spiritual, you know, abilities will awaken on their own. Different spiritual beings and ETs will dead ass come to you and wake
Yeah.
you up, like activate your shit without you even knowing, just because they're like, oh yeah, this person needs it, you know? They're an agent for the divine.
That's organic.
All the time, you need to go with the flow of your life.
Mhm.
Flow will not steer you wrong because the flow is pretty much directly connected with your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind will not steer you wrong whatsoever.
Amrita, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was like, that's organic spiritual growth.
Yeah, organic.
Mhm.
Be authentic and organic.
You like
Don't feel
organic.
that fast food
Yep.
spirituality. Go to
Yeah,
the
we don't like
drive-through
to.
window, picking up whatever you want to pick up. You and your processed cheeseburger spirit, whatever. Like, but the thing when you heart based and you have humility and you're working your abilities for your purpose, right? You start to attract even more divine beings who support you. Attract so many spirit friends who support
Mhm.
you, and
Your
you're,
physical friend.
That's a fact.
yeah,
That's a
and
fact.
there you go. And those, they have your back. They're like, we want to help you with your purpose. Like we're here for the divine plan. So let's get it. Let's collaborate. Let's co-create together. And I've even like, speaking of like an ET coming to activate, recently, it was in March, I think, or early April. I don't know. Yahoo knows. I was late. I was high, right? But I did some divination. Like, you know, I went into trance, did my thing. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to sleep. Or I made some art, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep. And I'm starting to fall asleep, and I felt this electronic, like electricity, this zap, like something touched above my left eye,
Mhm.
and it
I remember
literally
that.
it sparked my whole left side of my body. And then I heard this like robot sound, or like this the sound that it made, it was like I don't know, it was like really weird. And I got up, I was like, whoa, I was like, what the hell was that? But
Yeah,
it
I'm
I
crazy.
it was like an ET just like touched my head and then did something. But they know I've been working on my heart. I've been working, you know, at that, like, it helped boost me to even keep going in that healing.
Exactly. I remember that too. And we spoke about how even in certain other lives, how certain things had happened to where your heart might have got corrupted, or you might have been hurting in a certain way, or anything like that. And now in this life, you're so focused on like healing that aspect of yourself and making that so much stronger that you having spiritual help come in because you're making that physical progress on your own and that spiritual progress on your own and taking those actions first so that you get help on the back. And a lot of people expect things to just come in and help them when it's really like you got to meet the divine or whatever divine intelligence is working with you halfway at all times.
Spot on, because we're in
I
the
will.
physical. We got to do what we got to do in the physical. They're in the spirit. They're like, okay, you want to get this done? You need go get this and bring it here, and let's work with this together. Like it's co-creating, and it's like They're not slaves. Like these beings are not slaves. We gotta
Yeah.
respect them, and you
Yeah.
know, yeah.
We
Most definitely.
also like when we talk about being heart based and being kind hearted beings, and like you can't even like attract certain things to you when you're not operating from that, because trust is,
Mhm.
it's easier to trust people when you are operating from love, because they can trust the fact that you're not going to abuse and misuse the power and the knowledge that you receive. And that's why I feel like also when it comes to healing and healing certain aspects of yourself, it also just builds that trust within. And not only when we talk about, developing your clairs and your psychic abilities, and even when it comes to astral projecting, you have to be able to be in this resonance of trust within, that you could do all these things and you can differentiate it. You can differentiate, okay, this is such and such, that's that. And you can perceive the ego, and you can be like, okay, that's that character, that's that aspect of me. Like it helps a lot when it comes to just being able to receive information. And even for myself, like I wouldn't have been able to do certain things, hear certain things, see certain things if I did not operate from love. Because like I said, like you could not receive things if you don't trust yourself. You can't like that's just not gonna work. Like especially like if you going on a tangent about, oh, I'm freaking King Tut, like beings are not gonna care to talk to you. Like they're not gonna care to talk
That
to you
are.
because how you
Not at
operating.
all.
So they're
They
not
really
gonna
Not at
want
all.
you. They really want to talk to you for real when you're in a state of like, oh, I am nobody. I am nothing. That's when they
They're,
interject for real.
Mhm.
they're like, wait, let me actually help you figure out who you actually are so you can have
Exactly.
some, you know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Because when you walk around and blank like that, it's great to have just kind of like no ego and be straight awareness, but we all do need some sense of identity to function in this physical world. And a lot of beings that, respect that I am nothing mentality, I am everything mentality, they will come in and kind of grant you some groundedness that comes from that state, if that makes sense. So I'm glad
That's
that
a
you said
fact.
that as well, because that actually is very important, because a lot of people just think they have to hold this state of like being nothing and nobody. And you can do that, but you also have to realize that you are someone at the same time, and you do have a certain identity spiritually that you're meant to express physically.
that
And
Hmm.
balance.
I
Yeah,
keep making that
Mhm.
point because a lot of these higher concepts kind of get lost in translation, and people don't understand what the point of these things really are. But the point is just to take the wisdom and take the power and use it however you really please, because you're the one that's creating the reality at the end of the day. And despite everything that we have spoke about to this point, that is still like the foundational truth that we all live every single day.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Sure.
and that's why we can be trusted to even hold spaces like the GFCC server. Like
Facts.
we wouldn't be able to even show up as team members if we wasn't operating from that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
That's a
Sure.
even when
fact.
we talk about bringing in this new paradigm and new earth leaders, like that's such a huge topic right now, especially in the spiritual community. Is like, oh yeah, I'm part of the new earth leader, but at the same time, like you're not operating from that
Yeah.
state. You're not embodying what that truly means. So it's kind of hard for people to actually usher in this new energy.
Yeah.
But even like I said, for us, like if we're not doing the work and we're not doing the shadow work and we're not actively holding ourselves accountable, it's going to be hard for us to even not only hold space for people, but to also gain that trust. Because
Mhm.
with great power comes with great responsibility, and you will not you if you do not love yourself, people will not be able to trust you with whatever it is that they're going through. And being a new earth leader, you have to guide people. Like you have to be able to hold space for people. If you can't do that for yourself, how do you expect to show up like that for other people? So I
That's a
think
fact.
yeah.
That's like spiritual malpractice.
Yeah, and
Malpractice.
people
Like, you
and
know.
people
Mhm.
and people know when something is off. People know when something is off with like the person that they look up to. It's just like how
Hmm.
those of you that went to church or go to or used to go to church, whatever it is, you could kind of tell what kind of pastor the pastor was. Like what if he was really practicing it, if he was
Yeah.
really practicing what he preached, if he was really there for the people, or if he was just trying to complete a certain goal for his own ego. If he was just trying to fulfill a certain role, so he could feel like he's guiding a group of people, even if that's guiding them astray.
Yep.
And I
And you
feel
see
like
that?
it's great because a lot of us understand that from a experience or from a intuitive standpoint. We've all understand what it's like to kind of have that energy come into our lives in some type of way. That energy of hypocrisy or that energy of genuineness. You know what I'm
And
saying? So
this is why spirit, like, let's talk about targeting real quick, because like different spirits and entities will target certain people. They usually target the people who like don't care too much about this shit. You know, it's like caring a lot is beneficial too. Like when you care so much about your mission and your goal, you know, that can help you do what you need to do. But I feel like spirit really targets the imperfect people, the people who are more so concerned with their physical lives, the people who are more so, you know, not really qualified for real, but have the potential. Like the people who you see who are like seemingly perfect on the internet, you know, those are like they become false prophets, you know. We've seen it happen, like especially when you said you could see when something is off with your leader. How many leaders since we've all had our first spiritual awakening? Just think back. How many leaders
yeah.
do you think of that have fallen off because they
And
just
it's like they had this gigantic mass of people that were following them, and
exactly
their
so
fall off
many
was
people.
Yeah.
just as massive because of the different depraved actions that they ended up being accused of or were actually
Hmm.
doing. And I feel like the reason for this is really because like they were operating at such a level of inauthenticity that they could
Hmm.
garner this huge following but not necessarily keep it. And eventually when you reach that level of power, like that those lower impulses, those lower energies that are attached to you are going to be expressed in some type of way.
Yeah, we was just talking about that with the
Yeah,
carbonation people and the
yeah,
Oh,
the fucking Nuwapian people. Like all of these ideologies, they came up super quick in like 2020, 2021, 2022. They were coming up super rapidly. A bunch of people were attracted to these ideologies because it made them feel special. It washed away their insecurities. But you know, you seen them, they fall faster than what they came up. You know, they fell faster because they weren't rooted in any type of real spiritual nature. They weren't rooted in any type of, you know, healing or real work. You know, they weren't rooted in any type of science.
bro.
They weren't rooted in, you know, what is real, you know? Um, you know, we've seen some of the people that had were in this, like, I'm not bringing down those people's accomplishments either because some of those people actually woke people up. A lot of the people who woke me up spiritually and facilitated my early journey, they were false prophets for real. But it's like they still did what they needed to do, you know?
Yeah, they played their role.
You know what I'm saying? Eventually, it's up to us as individuals to overcome certain ideologies and be like, okay, wait a minute, take a step back. This doesn't really make sense. Let me cater and grow my own spiritual ideology, my own spiritual journey. And that's what leads you to, you know, the people who are really for you, the group that is really for you. But
Yeah,
I think that is really good to talk about targeting because spirit targets everybody. Like those people who were false prophets were targeted by spirit as well. You feel me? To invalidate their spiritual awakening and spiritual experiences is stupid. But to say that their positive effect or their, you know, end goal or their outcome was what they acted like they were promoting is another thing. You know, this is why it's important to
like
really steer your own journey and take control and really lay out the proper foundation to grow on something long term. You feel me? You know, there's no such thing as a foundation rooted in hatred and ego, or you know, like a lot of those ideologies that fell off, they were rooted in racism, spiritual narcissism, things like that. You know, oh, this group of people is higher than this other group of people because of this and that. You know, it's all stupid,
that's
and
just bringing that's,
it's a defense
that's just
mechanism
bringing
from
overall,
what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that's just bringing the overall energy into truth.
Exactly, because it's like that's a whole, especially when it comes to like Nuwapians and how they were saying, you know, black people, melanated people, even though all humans are melanated, you know, melanated people are higher than all other races because we have melanin. It's just like that type of those type of spiritual ideologies are super dangerous, um, because it's like it's a defense mechanism against capitalism. It's a defense mechanism against the atrocities that have happened to us as melanated people, as you know, African Americans, whatever. But you know, we can't do that knee-jerk reaction and just build our own bullshit to combat the other bullshit. Like we got to stand in our truth, you know what I'm saying? And a part of the truth is realizing that we have made mistakes too. You know, all groups of people on this planet have committed all type of atrocities. We've done all type of crazy shit to each other, and that's just human nature. But it's not definitive human nature. You know, that's what humans have done. But we can be
Yeah,
better as humans. You know what I'm saying? We need to
most
do a
definitely. That's so
podcast on
fact.
that about human nature because that's something I want to talk about a lot.
That's a fact, bro. I feel like we should do that. That'd be a great topic to go into like next. And I'm
Mhm.
glad that you kind of got into this as we're like closing out because I feel as though those perspectives are very regressive, but they're supposedly coming from truth. And I feel like as we go into the new world, there's going to be a lot of people who try to drag certain topics or certain perspectives that are wrapped up in truth, but are also full of old world energy. So I'm glad that you said that. And I'd love to go into that topic on the next episode of the podcast.
Human nature.
Most definitely human nature. So I'm glad that all of y'all gave these perspectives and we kind of spoke on everything that we had to do with these different subjects. Is there anything else any of y'all want to say to close out the pod? Before we kind of get up out of here.
Hey, I just wanted to add one thing to what X was saying with these like false prophets and stuff. Like they failed the test.
Facts.
They they
Facts.
chose the lower outcome. Had they chosen the higher outcome, their gifts would have really been gifting, and they really been would have been doing something big. Like they were given this platform to really trailblaze and to make a way for people, but
Mhm.
instead they were tested. They're like, let's see if you will pass the test, if you're going to be about what you think you're going to be about. But they failed. So always
Facts.
choose the higher
They use the
Facts.
people that built them up to fund
outcome.
their mansions and Lamborghinis
Hmm.
and bullshit instead of
Yeah,
investing that shit back into the community, which is
Exactly.
Exactly.
ridiculousness.
The
Exactly.
best healers guide you back to yourself.
Hmm.
Most definitely. Because at the end of the day, we're all engineered to be able to heal ourselves spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And that's something that we all need to most definitely understand. So I'm
Hmm.
glad you brought that up too. Because the power is in your hands, regardless of what atrocities your ancestors went through, the atrocities that people are doing right now. There's enough energy, there's enough space, there's enough power within you and yourself, and what you want to do within your spirit to thrive inside of the new world, and that's what we're all trying to bring to the earth.
exactly.
Facts.
It's gonna be on YouTube or so
Yes, sir.
join up the Discord, everybody. Subscribe,
Sure.
sharing this galactic breathful information. Something to contemplate on. And we both met from the Discord, so this is a physical link up that we may happen. So
Yeah.
real community
Yeah,
in real time.
That's a fact.
yeah,
Facts. Real community.
Y'all seeing a real physical manifestation of real spiritual work, a real spiritual networking, and true application of knowledge. And that's
Facts.
us sitting right here, and
Real life.
us even making this podcast right here is an example of everything that we're speaking on. We live this, and we really just came here to kind of share that with y'all.
mhm.
So yeah,
It's a
Also, we're
fact.
going to be uploading to Spotify as well. We're GFCC Global on
Mhm.
Spotify.
Eventually, all platforms.
yes,
Yeah,
podcast platforms very soon. Thank y'all for coming out to the GFCC podcast. I appreciate all of y'all for uh I appreciate Devonsky for pulling up on me. I appreciate Professor X
love to
for
see it.
hosting. I appreciate Sonny and Z and Arlen and Amrita and everyone else who pulled up for giving y'all input. Sending y'all a lot of love, and we will catch y'all next week on the GFCC podcast. Peace.
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 Have a
Bye.
galactic day. Stay positive.
Bye.
Peace.